We'd like to start out by thanking our valuable sponsors. Sense of Satisfaction by Cricket is the place for all your fragrance needs. Plus, she's got products to heal what ails your skin and your hair. Shop at scentsbycricket.com. Special thanks to our valued sponsor, John Travis, a financial coach and certified Kingdom advisor with Richard Young Associates, a registered investment advisor. Thanks goes to Anna Patterson, my sister in the Lord who faithfully gives to this ministry every month. And to our newest sponsor, LaToya Gerard of Preach the Word Worldwide Network. She is a valued sponsor and a major encourager regarding this ministry. We need and would love to have you as a sponsor. Absolutely no gift is too small. Please note the info regarding giving throughout and at the end of the show, and help us spread these testimonies around the world. Please note that the views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily the viewpoints of our sponsors. It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for the Sister Speak Brother Break Show. As promised, we have a couple who is going to share with us today from their lives, the things that God has brought them through. We've had both these guests on individually. First, we had Danielle, Jakell, Graham, Shannonhouse, and her testimony was so beautiful, and it was hard for her to even talk about her life without mentioning her husband. And she, threw him in there so many times that it intrigued me, and I wanted to hear his story. And then he came on, and man, I'm glad I know him. I really am. I really am. He blessed my life. And so we have Joe Shannonhouse. If you missed Jakell's or Joe's testimonies, go back and check them out. You absolutely want to hear what they have to say. And so, Jakell and Joe, while y'all sitting over there clowning, thank y'all for being here today.
You are welcome.
You're
We're
welcome.
glad to be here.
Thank you for having
trusting us. Yeah, to be on here.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing both of y'all, even like, of course, I'm here for the actual conversation. And then I go back and look at it again. And then when it's coming from production, and I sit and watch again, try to make sure we don't have errors. And then even the night it airs, I watch it again, and every time it's just like, oh God, you something awesome. And so, like I said, I've heard your testimonies individually, but it was just really on me to have y'all on here together, and so that you can minister to other couples who may be going through difficult times, or who may be in a good place right now, but knowing that every day ain't sunny. So, look, I guess y'all can start us off at the courtship. I remember one of y'all telling me where y'all met. But go on and let the people know.
Well, first off, we thank God. We thank God for placing you in our life, and thank you for having us. We're very humble, and hopefully we can get off this thing without fighting. I'm playing. So I think we got two different but the same ways of how we met, because I thought she was head over heels over me, and she was staring at me when I got back from employment, and she kind of will probably say otherwise. But we met. I first seen her when I just got back from a deployment, and she was on the rear detachment, which means basically she didn't deploy. She stayed back in the rear here in the States and kept everything afloat. Mm-hmm. So when we got back, we marched across the field and everything. We got placed back with the unit, and rear detachment came then attached with the unit, and I saw her staring at me. Right.
I didn't even see her the first time.
I hear my beret on. This during the time we came back from deployment, we removed our patrol caps and put on our beret. And the way I wore my beret, it was all slick across there and swoop cross down across that eye. And she was like, I saw her eyes get all tight, and she was staring. Every time I walked somewhere, I look over there and I catch her staring, and she try to look away.
I don't remember none of this because let him tell it. He claimed that he saw me first before I even saw him, weeks before I even saw him. So I might have been looking at something else, like something building or something, and he might have been walking past because I didn't even see him at first.
She was staring from day one.
I believe you, Jim. I believe you.
One thing I will say about our story, though, like how we met, if you look at it now, and this is if I could encourage anybody, if I look at it now, for people who are courting and dating and want to be married, how Joe and I met, I do think it was ordained by God, but things that we did were sinful. And so now I look at our marriage where it is now, how we met, the romance and the butterflies and the lust and the attraction, that was not enough to sustain a marriage. But I look at it now, and every day I'm reminded of God's grace, because we didn't do everything right. We were very doing things in the world, very worldly, very sexually immoral, and just different things like that. But I look at it now like, man, look at God's grace, because out of a significant number of my friendships, marriages are crumbling and suffering. And so that's why I'm honored to be on here. And I thank God every day, because it's not every day that marriages make it, and the marriages maybe making it, but then they're sleeping in separate rooms. They got stuff going on. So I really, really see this marriage. And if I could say one thing, this is an example of God's grace and mercy. Because when you start something, with sinful desires and sin nature, that can take root and overshadow everything. And like, as you'll hear through the course of our marriage, God's forgiving, his saving power, his mercy new every morning. Like, this man here ain't even the man I married. This is a renewed mind in Christ. This is a new creation in Christ. We were still playing church when we got together.
I had hair back then too.
He had hair.
Okay.
I was significant pounds lighter. But no, man, if I could take anything away, to encourage people who are, dating or looking for their husband, just stay true to who God has created you to be, and stay holy, stay set apart, to save you some trouble. That's what I hope anybody can learn from us.
We started out. It was cute. It was lust.
Yeah, the beret was fine. It was cute. And he had it.
We had that beret was on point. But it was when we started dating, looking back at it, we know it was wrong, but at the time it was just like, all right, we're going with what we feel. And how we feel right now is just how we feel, and we're gonna get together and we're gonna have fun. And I think, and I remember back in our personal segment, that we built it off of alcohol. We built the beginning of our relationship off alcohol, off of sex, off of we were arguing, yelling, cussing, physically fighting, you name it. And that's how it started. And anything that starts like that, it's not gonna last.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and then, like, even in the unit, the unit where we worked, like the different other soldiers, there was so many, they not gonna last. This marriage not gonna last. And because it's true. You see that these military marriages, people in the military get married 3 and 4 times. It is just if you like somebody, you marry them. And so to be able to stand and not say, not like in a bragging way or boastful, but to know that had we not met the Lord, had we not got saved.
Yeah.
Which it should be encouraging to some, because sometimes, like, we found God, even in the midst of our sin, God still called us, and we heard Him. We found Christ together. Like, we started in sin, and we I guess we tried to make it work.
Wow.
We tried to work whatever it was working, and it wasn't until we decided to walk hand to hand, with God in the center, to where things started working out.
Yeah.
So even if you started your marriage off without Christ in the center, it's still hope that you can save your marriage. I mean, you may think that your marriage everything is going good, but without Christ, it ain't as good as you think.
Right.
How
So y'all got married. You said y'all started
Yes.
dating in
It was January
2011.
and then we was married in November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And pregnant
In December.
immediately.
Okay. Okay. Was that a shocker?
It was.
Okay.
Because we thought that we would be like, oh, we're gonna spend some time single and get ourselves established, and then we'll have children. And
we thought we had control over that. We thought we could plan
Right.
our life.
They kept coming.
Right.
Well,
Well,
every
Joe,
time, that's all.
I'm sorry. Say one more time.
Every time we decided to plan something, it was unsuccessful.
Gotcha.
So,
Did you feel, was there any added pressure to you? Like, because if you're saying y'all, you thought you had it planned out in your head how it was gonna go, and then boom, wife and a child coming. Did you feel extra pressure to show up or provide, or like, man, am I ready to be a daddy? I said husband, but daddy, like,
well, no, I was already from my previous. I was already a dad,
okay.
but to have a child with my new wife now, I was excited.
Okay.
Hopefully, I was thinking this was my boy.
Okay.
Okay. If y'all know me by now, it was.
Right. No boy.
But yeah, I was excited. I was excited for one, thinking it was my boy, and then to share a child with my wife, and to be here for it and everything, because there was no plans for deployment.
Okay.
So I was going to be there for the whole thing.
Okay.
So,
Jakell, how was it for you processing? I've been married a month and I'm pregnant.
I think Mama freaked me out more than anything, just because when I told her, because I was excited, like in a newlywed thing, the newlywed mindset, it's like, I'm married now and I'm about to have a kid. So it's fun, and you get to, you think it's fun because you get ready to start planning nurseries and shopping and stuff. Like, that's not all, like cute clothes. But Mama was like, well, y'all ain't had time to do nothing to get to know each other, so then it kind of was like that air of panic, but then still kind of naive a little bit. So I think mostly was like just being naive and thinking, oh, it's going to be this little cute little baby.
Right.
I think that brought a lot of, starting to have a family and have children. I think that can make or break you. Because then when you have this child, so like from the time she was born and you start doing things, or, choices that you incorporate, or parenting styles from how he was raised versus how I was raised, then you really start to see how differently you all were raised, and different values that you have, and what's important to you. We should spend money on this and not that. that became a sore spot too. You know, just trying to figure out how are we going to raise this child. You know, should she go to this type of daycare? Should we put her in this? You know, are we? How important is, you know, preventive doctor's appointments and routine well visits? We didn't go to doctor, but we did what, you know, just you name it. Just different like that. Or, you know, Southern babies. Well, we got to get this baby. We got to get this baby dedication dress that costs hundreds of dollars. Well, what we spending money on that? You know, just
Right.
we didn't do that. It was
At the time, it was her first, but it wasn't mine. So she wanted to do all the big things for the first, and I'm like,
yeah.
Gotcha. Uh-huh.
But it was I don't know. I would say we did mesh well together when it came to raising or going through a pregnancy. You know, I think we did good. The understanding part. I think you got me some books.
We had one incident.
We had one
incident that involved Joe's sleep, and I went into premature labor with Jakell. And I don't know what sleeping dust what got on Joe. And
here is your oldest?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we didn't have any other kids in the home at this time. So we, you know, newlyweds, we living in this house, and I started going into preterm labor at 34 weeks. And this man had been sprinkled with the sleeping dust fairy. I don't know, he would not wake up. Like I poured water on him. I was slapping him. I was shaking him. I was like, I went up to the hospital at 34 weeks. I was in labor. I went there. I was there for like 4 hours while they did stuff to try to stop the labor. And I think I was headed back home like 6 o'clock. He woke up and called. I said, don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. So
I don't know. I don't know
so
what happened.
Let me ask you this, because I was headed this way. So let me ask you, because I remember when we talked, you and I, Joe, I remember you saying there were kind of some things that came in because, like you say, y'all established your relationship throwing them back. And then she's pregnant, so she ain't throwing nothing back, but you still throwing. Was that one of them throwback moments? Or you just very good?
It could have been. I don't know how heavy I was. I don't even. When I woke up, I didn't remember falling asleep.
Okay.
So I didn't. It could have been one of those blackout alcoholic moments.
And see, this was all like we're having a child. We are not. We still playing church. You know, we still doing all these things, going through the motions, going to church every weekend. Had no heart transformation at all.
I think I was still smoking cigarettes then. I was still smoking.
I don't think you had quit smoking cigarettes before Jakell, but you were still drinking.
Smoking on our ride back. He was pregnant. I remember we was in a Corolla, and I was smoking on the way back from Aiken. And you'd be sweet. Pregnant? Yeah.
So I didn't know.
Yeah.
I remember, because that was the thing. It was like a whole thing when Joe smoked cigarettes. His mama told me to take them and break them in the name of Jesus. She said, "You take them cigarettes and you break them in the name of Jesus." So look, this is news to me. So see, he was still smoking.
Because you caught me.
That was before we even got married, though. But it wasn't a Corolla.
Maybe I got my time.
Let me ask you this. So by this time, had you all begun to go to church when you got married? Or
yeah. Church still just because it was the thing to do. You know, we were checking the block.
Okay. Gotcha.
We were checking the block, and it's like we didn't know that God was at work.
We went to church, so we tell people we went to church.
Yeah.
So what y'all do today? Oh, we went to church. Oh.
No transformation because we still came home, and it was just, you know, just like typical stuff. You know, you trying to run a household with, it's a stranger. It's basically a stranger, you know, that you are meeting for the first time, and you're like, wait a minute, y'all eat that, y'all cook y'all food that way, y'all don't watch. It's just, and then everything is an argument. You know, if you don't have grace and forgiveness at the core, how everything is an argument. Everything a source of annoyance and
Right.
this he's stupid. And I had in my mind that, and like I said, this is not, none of this is true, but I had in my mind, made up in my mind, that I knew more than Joe and that he needed my help in figuring things out and managing things because the Grahams knew best. We knew how to do everything and we were perfect in all our ways. And then you don't know nothing because you're from the small town. So I got to tell you everything. I got to figure everything out for you, which is, we couldn't be further from the truth. And that drove a wedge in our marriage. You know, if you, and then like you hear submission. Submission is such a bad word in marriage. But I was disrespectful as a wife, you know, because I didn't let him have a voice. Whatever I said went, you know, like when it came time to picking the daycare for Jakell, well, I didn't pick the daycare. Well, I'm gonna put her over here. No input, no consultation, you know, major purchases. Well, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna do that. You know, and that made him feel like he didn't have a voice, made him feel less than a man, because we didn't understand, you know, the biblical framework of how God designed marriage and how it was supposed to be. And so I did have to learn to submit to not just like, oh my gosh, you can do whatever you want, use me as a floor mat, but, you know, learning the true word of what it means to be a submissive wife, and it's not a pusher of a wife.
Right.
Because that's, Joe.
It was
You know.
I think for me, and
I'm still in charge. Like, no.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for me, it was at the time, I wouldn't say I felt intimidated by Kell. However, I knew she had college, you know, and she could articulate things a lot better than how I could. You know, she had a way with words, and she got plenty of words in there. Like before I get 5 words, she on 80. You know, so now it's still a challenge because she can ask a question, and then 20 more will come right after that before I had time to process the first question and answer that one. And then she's like, "So what you think back?" And that follow-on question, she hit me with that one today, a follow-on question. I was like, whoa, so that's 2 things to think about at one time, you know?
Right.
But she would do that, you know, and it would be like, well, hold on, I haven't had time. And then it's like, oh, okay. And then she'll move on. Like I wasn't moving fast enough. You know, I wasn't processing things fast enough.
And in my mind, I took that as he don't know nothing. I need to make all the decisions.
Yeah.
You know, and that could be a recipe for disaster. You know, but God has a way of humbling us ever so gently. And it's like, so as we spent this time so this was at Fort Stewart, Georgia, which is down in Hinesville, like near Savannah. And so Joe got those orders again, which is the orders meaning it's time for you to move to another, you know, state or duty station. And there was a particular military school that Joe wanted, which was to be a drill sergeant. You know, those are the ones that do the basic training. But because of an incident that Joe had before, they were like, oh, well, you can't do the drill sergeant school anymore. But we still were going to move. We still were going, they said, you're not going to go to drill sergeant school, but we still going to send y'all to Missouri. So we both went to Missouri, and that is where things got a climax. And then that's where, I don't know how to describe it, except we had to go there.
Okay.
We had to go to Missouri. We had to go to Missouri, and he couldn't have gone to that. If he had gone to become a drill sergeant, we would never, I don't think we would have stayed married. I don't think we would have.
It's hard to say how God would have moved in that, if he would have moved in that. I don't know.
I think this because because, you know, the life of a drill sergeant, what they call it on the trail, there it's busy. It's what, 12, 14-hour days. You don't see the family. So him being in a kind of place where God can manipulate probably wouldn't have been as possible. But when we went to Missouri anyway, and the joke about Missouri, Fort Leonard Wood is called Fort Lost in the Woods. when we got lost in the woods, that's where we found the Lord. And we got up there, and I know just from separately our testimonies, but just it got worse there. I don't know if it's because because at Fort Stewart in Hinesville, I was still kind of close to home, so I could go home, like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hour drive whenever I felt like it. He had been at Fort Stewart a while. He had friendships, he had deployment buddies. So we both had a life in Fort Stewart. So now God takes us to a new place where nobody knows anybody. Everything is new. New unit, new house, new neighborhood. This is new. Nobody has been here before. Well, we had been there for training, but nobody has lived here before. Nobody has connections here, so what is going to happen? And that, I think that was a make or break moment, because that's when things got real bad. That's how the fight started. that's when we had a miscarriage there, and that was hard. Jakell was, that's in the age where she had just turned 1. So that was also a kind of idea of, as she's developing a person, well, I want to do these things with her. Well, I want to do these things with her. Well, that's not important. Well, I think this is new job. My job at the time, I was still active duty, and they were talking about deploying. So then it threw Joe into a whole new parenting role. Joe is now alone with a 1-year-old. I'm gone.
Okay.
I'm gone for at least a month. He's now no support, no grandparents, no aunts, no uncles, nobody down the road. He's raising a 1-year-old alone.
I'm trying to figure that thing out. And them little ponytails at the with the rubber bands on.
Right.
I had to figure that out real quick.
And Kira had afro before it was school, so he was trying to figure that out.
Okay.
And this was before we wasn't even going to Moet then. We hadn't even started going to church. No.
Moet.
Anyway, just started going, but I don't think we knew, because we didn't have this. No, we didn't. So we didn't even have a church home yet. And so we were there, and Joe was trying to figure out how to be a working dad with a infant girl, a 1-year-old girl. So that threw him into a new parenting challenge. It threw me into a challenge because I no longer have control, because remember, I said I had to think for him, and I was articulating. So now because I can't control nothing because I'm not home.
So much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at the SSBBshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together.